Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's once again time for your favorite podcast about list making 10-1. I am one of your list masters, Josh, joined as always by the list mistress, the listress, if you will, Jen.
Well, I've been called a lot of things, but Listress, that's a new one. I kind of feel like I might be a cross between a list maker and possibly a good mouthwash. I don't know. That was good. Uh, I'm kind of excited about tonight's list. What about you?
Oh, it's going to get weird.
I have a feeling it is going to get weird because most of the movies that are on my list until we get to the top five, there's nothing really romantic about them. So gonna have to explain a little bit. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. Did you have fun putting your list together?
Oh, I had tons of fun putting my list together for this live broadcast.
And yeah, I love when we do stuff live because anything can happen, and honestly, everything kind of does. So
Yes, I
that's
only shudder at what lies ahead for us.
other people walking into the room, dogs barking, whatever. It's always big. It's always something. There's always
Having a
something.
child walk right up to your desk with a live mic right in front of you, going, "Hey, Dad, where's the ice cream?"
It could be worse. You know, they could be asking, you know, what does this word mean, or something like that.
"Hey, Dad, we're trying to do laundry. Do you want to keep these underwears with all the holes in them?"
Okay, this is completely a little bit off topic, except I'm gonna throw it in there because one of the things that maybe I started thinking about as I was creating this list is I was kind of late to the whole romance game. First of all, I was not really all that interested in boys, except I mean I was, but I wasn't really like I was more interested in my nerdy stuff. I was interested in my Dungeons and Dragons and whatever. Um and so like when I did get interested, I was so late to the game and I was so clueless, and it was kind of painful. And I can still remember being, I don't know, um I can't remember how old I was. I think I was like maybe 12. And I was reading a book. Now, I used to read books that were like way beyond my. Yeah, I should not have been reading. No, that's not true. It's not that I shouldn't have been reading them. It's just that they were way beyond my ability to comprehend a lot of things. But I still loved them because, I learned so much and felt like it was cool. So I can still remember asking my mom because I was reading a book that was a science fiction book, what an orgasm was. And I didn't even pronounce it right because I had never heard the word out loud before. And my mom's face turned about 15 shades of red. And she demanded to know what I was reading. And I explained to her what it was. And it was just a science fiction book called Logan's Run, by the way. And it was at that moment that I realized that the topic of let's just say stuff associated with, men and women, you got to be really careful about how you approach that because, uh when you are trying to figure this stuff out, there's a lot of pitfalls. Yeah, one of them is asking your mom those kinds of questions when she clearly doesn't think that you should know what those kind of questions are. So, yeah. I didn't feel any of that when I was putting this list together necessarily, but I was reminded sharply of some of these movies as I was putting this list together. Like, yeah, remember when you were still thinking romance was this, and actually it was this. So the point of our homework this week was to put together a list that each movie is supposed to represent something about the way that we like to be romanced. So let's see. What are we going to come up with?
Messed up stuff.
It was not well, yeah. Some stuff is going to feel kind of messed up. There's no doubt about it, but that's okay. I mean, everybody's got their own way of handling things and dealing with stuff, and you know, it's all good. It's all good. We're not going to shame anybody. We might laugh a little bit, but that's okay. We'll get through it.
See, now I'm scared for multiple reasons. One of them being, did I understand the assignment? And two, oh my God, what are people going to think of me in this list? Not that I'm worried about what people think of me. It's just, I, curiosity. Because my list is my
I
list. I'm going to stand by it.
I think every movie on my list represents at least an aspect of how I would want to either be romanced or maintain romance. I mean, it's all sort of like related, but some movies more than others really speak to the power of how I want to be romanced, not just like an overall, yeah, this is the picture of how I like romance. Because that would be boring, right? I don't I feel like
Yeah,
that would be boring.
I think mine is focused a little more on the ideological side over
Hmm.
actual actions.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
yeah, it's all about a frame of mind for me.
Well, let's get right into it then. How about you start with your number 10?
Oh Lord, I kicked it off with a doozy. And again, I want to make very, very clear this is not about the characters in the movie. This is not like, oh, I have a crush on this character. Nothing like that. In fact, uh, I don't even have to like the actual characters involved. There's just something about something in the movie that makes me go, huh, yeah, I would like to see more of that in my life. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
so please go ahead because
no, no, I was gonna say something else, and then I thought, you know what, I really better not. Just go ahead and tell us what it is, and um, and we'll all place our judgments wherever they may land. Let's just go with it. Let's see what happens. It's all gonna be
my
good.
my number 10 is 2022's Megan.
Ooh, well,
Yeah, speechless already. Off to a great start.
I'm pretty sure that you're not implying that you want a possibly homicidal animatronic partner. So please explain,
Okay.
cause yeah.
Now, before I go any further, I just want to say I think from this point on, um, it should be fair to assume there will be spoilers for the movies we talk about.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Um, some of them might be a bit on the older side. Some of them, could be a little bit newer. But from here on out, it's spoiler territory, just so we're clear. And speaking of which, there is one scene, it's at the tail end of the movie, that I absolutely loved because it reminded me of something that I would love to see in that fabric of relationship, right? So at the end of the movie, Megan and the aunt they're talking, and I was like, these two have like major issues, and they kind of want each other, for lack of a better term, destroyed. But even though one of them is being a little disingenuous, and it's not the robot, uh, they still they're sitting at the table and they're talking, And Megan is, you know, putting out this plan like, hey, there are things that you lack and there are things that I lack, but together we actually make a pretty competent, you know, parenting unit. And we could give this a go. I don't kill you, you don't destroy me. When we just raise this kid up right, because I will kill to protect this kid. So let's do it. Let's co-parent this child. And again, yes, psychopathic murder doll, sure, not part of the equation when it comes to, real life relationship stuff, but just the fact that even though there are so many issues between them, I'd love the idea of just being able to sit at the table and talk and come to this agreement that yes, the kid, or in my case, the kids, are the priority. They're the most important thing, and the one thing we should, you know, uh, be on the same page about. And I appreciated the hell out of that, and I had to add it to my list. So that's why it's my number 10.
That was actually really insightful and good. Like, that's exactly, I think, what I was thinking in terms of how to put together a list too. Like, it's not the whole movie. It's not like the movie is some kind of overarching metaphor for the entire romance. It's just aspects and pieces are, this is how I want to find romance or be romanced because this is what I find attractive. And I absolutely believe that that is 1,000% the homework. So you nailed it. I
Sweet.
from this point forward, don't feel any shame about anything that you put forward. It absolutely is exactly what I was thinking. So awesome.
Nice.
Um. Okay. P.S. Megan is a fabulous film, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it because it is absolutely awesome. It's really fun, and it's an homage to a lot of different horror movies. You'll love it. It's very good. I really loved it.
I'll throw in as a bonus real quick. Yeah, someone that could kind of relate to my offspring would also be great.
Hmm.
Not at a peer level, mind you, but someone that would make that effort to get to know them.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Um. Okay. My number 10 is it's gonna actually take a little bit of explaining, because I really don't want this specific type of symbiosis, but their relationship is super awesome. Um, I am talking about Tom Hardy and Venom in Venom. Okay, now this is kind of a little bit out there, I know, right? I certainly don't want to have a relationship that speaks to the kind of relationship that they have inside of one body, because let's just face it, that number one would get super crowded, and number two, no, that's just no. I need my autonomy. That's not going to happen. But the way that Venom and Eddie eventually learn to communicate is kind of amazing, and it requires some serious work and trust. And I feel like this is the kind of relationship building that we all forget is like the most important. When to trust someone, when to let go, when to let one person take over or the other person take over, and then how to come together to be a power couple. And so, from a purely sort of, this is the metaphor, Venom and Eddie make an awesome couple because they sort of have to go through all of these growing pains in order to be able to effectively work together. That's a big deal. And it's one of those things that's so overlooked when you are first dating someone, or when you're, going through the growing pains of becoming a couple. You forget that, being a couple is also built on autonomy and trust. And I really loved that message. So there isn't a whole lot more that I can say about Venom, like super specifically, that relate to that, because it's not it's the idea of the Venom in any relationship. It's not the specific Venom in any relationship. I am definitely not asking for any aliens to come down and create some kind of weird symbiotic relationship. No. But in terms of just how we overall deal with each other, a little bit of symbiotic relationship, it kind of works. And it takes a lot to get there. So I really felt like this was a good starting off point. It was definitely the number 10. It doesn't score any higher on my list, but I think it with Megan being your number 10 and Venom me being my number 10, I think we both sort of, that is the direction. So that was my number 10, Venom.
Yes, Jen, you chose well in choosing us.
Yeah, and also, can I just say that, listen, if you do have that voice, um that's a big plus. So this is, romance aside, just, sort of like, are you attractive? Do you have that kind of voice? Absolutely. You know, I'm there for that. And so, yeah.
You know what? I kind of feel like my pick is normal now. So
So, there you go. I'm so glad that I could help you to feel normal, because I realize that this is an odd and daunting task.
it is, and I took a lot of whew, I took a lot of heart in this one. I try to do it right. I mean, I always try to do the list right, but this one hits very close to home.
Yeah, this one was tough. I'll definitely say this one was tough. It took me quite a while to put this list together too. So,
And to find it again.
and I have to promise, uh, just in case our mutual friend Kinte is listening, I had to promise that I wasn't going to put The Shape of Water in here, and I didn't.
Ah,
But yeah, because I'll be teased until the end of time. So I didn't.
well, kind of wish that segued into my next one, but it doesn't. It segues into the one after that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
We'll circle back to this.
Okay.
What's your number 9?
My number 9. Well, it's a musical.
Hmm.
I'll sing one of the songs. Guys and dolls. We're a bunch of crazy guys and dolls. Yeah? Yeah?
Oh,
You
Guys
remember
and
that?
Dolls?
Yeah. Don't you and don't you remember Luke be a Jedi tonight? Okay. For those of you unaware, The Simpsons had Mark Hamill as a guest star, and they're like, Mark Hamill starring in Guys and Dolls. And he's like, I don't think these are the words to Luck Be a Lady. And they're like, just sing the song, Jedi boy. And he did. No, but my number 9 is Guys and Dolls. And I know, crazy, right? It's about gambling. It's about this guy that kind of, shrugs off, his fiance of a billion years while she's like, come on, let's get married. And Sky Masterson's trying to woo this church lady. It's like, none of this, it makes much sense. Like, I don't want to go to Cuba for dancing, maybe medical care, but not dancing. Um, I don't need a dulce de leche. Oh, he's pulling out all the quotes. No, but the the point of making my number 9 comes from Adelaide. Adelaide. Ever loving Adelaide.
Hmm.
It involves taking a chance on someone, even though they might not have, the best path. at the moment, Adelaide sees something in Nathan, and that's what I would, when it comes to relationships, I would love it if somebody could see past the, you know, the face value of where I currently sit in life and could see where they think I'm going and how things could be. Not necessarily in a I want to change everything about you kind of way. Definitely not that. But in a I kind of see the potential in you kind of way. And even though Adelaide's been kind of pulled along for years, she she stuck her flag in the ground and she said, "This is her guy." And she's going to stick with him because he's not a bad guy. He's not the best guy, but he's her guy. And he would do anything to hurt her, physically, emotionally, or anything like that. He just accidentally, has this life. Well, he intentionally has the lifestyle, but he's kind of doofy in that way. But yeah, the reason it's my number nine is because of Adelaide and the fact that she claims what is hers, and will keep pushing for what she wants out of the relationship. And that is an admirable trait to me, and that's a trait that I would love to see in someone in regards to me. And that's why Guys and Dolls is my number nine.
That's a good one. That is definitely a good one. And well said. Very well said.
Thank you.
Okay, my number nine, um, it is this is complicated because the moment that I say this movie, the I think that the first jump is going to be something maybe a little bit less than what I actually think is sort of the part that is the best part of the relationship. And so I'm going to explain. I'll just say what the movie is. The movie is Ghost. And I know that that I feel like the jump in Ghost is to immediately sort of parse the relationship with Patrick Swayze being a ghost. And, you know, that is the point of the movie, hence the name, but it's the relationship up to that point that keeps Patrick Swayze's character around. It is a long relationship of really deep love. And that's kind of what keeps him tethered. His unfinished business is keeping the person that he loves safe because she is in harm's way. And there is something both absolutely beautiful about that, but the biggest thing is the letting go part. And I wish that this wasn't like part of how I view romance, because like nobody thinks about it quite like that. But you know, there are things when you are experiencing love that require you to let go. And sometimes it's kind of more metaphor than not. Sometimes, sometimes it's like symbolic, but sometimes it's very real. Like you absolutely have to let go of certain things in order to make your partner have what they need, and then your partner does the same. They let go of certain things in order to make sure that the relationship continues to thrive. Now, in this case, obviously at the end of the movie, Patrick Swayze's character moves on, ascends, um and so his unfinished business is done, and that leaves Demi Moore's character completely seemingly alone. But the romantic aspect to me of this that is so compelling is that sometimes you have to do things that are incredibly uncomfortable in order to be sure or make sure or assure that your partner has everything that they need to succeed. And I'm not talking about some kind of abusive one-sided relationship where excuse me, where sort of, everything is, well, I have to give up everything in order for my partner to succeed. I am really talking about this idea that there are times when you love someone deeply that you proceed to give up a lot in order to make sure that they can succeed. And I don't know, there's something in that message that makes me feel like that's the completeness of romance. The completeness of romance is not being selfish. The completeness of romance is not having tit for tat. The completeness of romance is realizing that inside of your own soul there is a want to see genuine happiness, uh genuine growth in the person that you care about the most. And sometimes that means that you don't get to be a part of it. Sometimes that means that you have to let that person, quote unquote, move on and do the things that they need to do in order to grow, because that's the way that they will find their own completeness. And then, like that saying goes, if you love something, set it free. And if it comes back to you, then it was yours. And if it doesn't, it never was to begin with. I feel that so strongly. And Ghost just sort of gives me that powerful message of there's more in this life than just the everyday mundane things that we do. Sometimes there are powerful things that we do for each other, which maybe we don't even understand, but they matter. They really matter. And I mean, of course, there's a whole other aspect to this where I think where a lot of people would go is just the genuine love affair that the two of them have, and I'm not diminishing that in any way. But that isn't the part that I have chosen to concentrate on in this movie. It is exactly what I said before. That's the part that I think is the most important. So my number 9 is a Ghost.
So sad.
It is
So sad.
sad. It is very sad. But romance is sometimes not always happy. I feel like we skip over that tra la 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 and forget that romance is sometimes difficult, and it's not just that, oh, you had your heart broken. It's that sometimes in order to, if you love someone that much, then you have to be willing to say maybe you need something more, or maybe you just need something outside of me, like whatever that looks like, because I don't want to get into whatever that looks like. But
Mhm.
the idea that you can be the bigger person and allow for your partner to grow through things even when you can't experience it yourself. That's power. That's true love. That's the epic vulnerability of being in love really with another person. It's not tangible. It's not something you can measure. It's not something that you could put down on a piece of paper and go, okay, well, here's your strengths and here's your weaknesses and here's where we meet up in the middle. It's something else. It's an essence. It's a power. And that's what I get from Ghost.
That is an excellent choice
Thank you.
and very well stated.
I love that choice. I love that movie. It's a very good movie. It still makes me cry every time.
Yeah, that's why I haven't been able to load it up in quite a while.
It's a tearjerker. I don't know. I feel like you're not human if you don't cry by the time that movie's over.
And it's funny because it's so emotional, but Whoopi shows up and it's hilarious.
It is. There's so many moments of levity in the film, but it's so serious. I mean, there's like, the stakes are so high and everything is so, not pardon the pun, but seriously, life and death. And it's amazing how much Whoopi Goldberg's character really gives the story beats all the pause that they need so that we can move forward without being just like literally drained by
Uh-huh.
the story itself. So, yeah.
Very well paced. So with that, I'm going to say, get off my tree.
Okay, on to number 8.
All right, can you feed me that thing about Kente not letting you?
Yeah, so this long running joke has me absolutely in love with the movie. Let me state that again. This is me, Jen, in love with the movie The Shape of Water. But uh, when I say that and Kinte is around, Kinte is absolutely positively sure that I am in love with the monster. And, you know, no, that's not true. I won't go there. It's just not. But yeah, I get ribbed to death on that one. So a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast thing going on.
And when did you say he'll let you live that down?
Uh, Never,
So
ever,
until the end of what?
ever. Until the end of well, I would say time, but I'm pretty sure that's what you want me to say. So, well, actually, I'll just say it. Until the end of time.
Well, luckily, in my next movie, that's not very long.
Oh no.
Because my number 8 is Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Oh, literally not very long. Oh boy.
Not very long at all. And again, just so we're clear, we are in spoiler territory. So I'm going to jump to the final scene. The very last thing we see is uh, Dodge and Penny laying in bed, waiting for the inevitable end of it all due to asteroid. And that's kind of where I want to pick up where it fits into my list, because these are two people that up until recently, weren't really they weren't involved with each other, but during these times they grew together, and they realized that the one place that they absolutely needed to be was with each other. And I love that thought. I love that sentiment. Not because, oh, I want to die in somebody's arms or anything like that, but because being in that person's arms is the place that they feel they were meant to be, where even though death is imminent, they're comforted with just the other person being there and being in that position, and just knowing that this is the way it was always supposed to be. It's not, playing with fates or any of that other, fantastical romance stuff, the we were meant to be together kind of stuff. But they found each other. They found their comfort, and they found their other. So facing not just, their deaths, but literally the death of everything around them. It's sorry, I get a little verklempt though. I get a little verklempt. Um, it's such a nice thought, a happy thought, in such a dire moment, and that's why it's meant to break.
Nice. That is actually a pretty good. I think that's. But you didn't explain. Okay, because part of this is expressing what. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm having such allergy problems. I apologize to everyone. Um, what is it about that movie that speaks to you personally? Like, what is it about the movie that makes you feel like this is how you want to be romanced?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, because I agree that it is a good, it is a good romance idea, but the homework was how do these movies, or give us a list of movies that speak to you personally about how you want to be romanced.
Okay. Well, I look at it like this. They were both looking for completely different things, right?
Right.
But they were looking for other things while together. And it was during this journey to where these two different people uh, are finding their own paths, only to find that their paths merged into one. So I would like it if, you know, somebody would not necessarily cross my path and go, oh, I guess we're just looking for different things. La di da di da. Oh, hey, here we are. No, no, nothing like that. But just the idea that you could start seeing those connections in ways you never imagined possible. Um,
Oh, okay.
as they're both, still trying to navigate in their minds exactly what is playing around them, but they found this connection to each other. Um, I don't want to say it's just due to proximity, but they really found a closeness, and through their conversations, through seeing what the other is willing to do. Um, I don't know. It's kind of like a really intense final exam that neither one of them are ready for, but because they're there to help each other, maybe that's what it all boils down to, just someone there that's there to help and learn with you as situations arise, rather than somebody that has all the answers immediately. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually does.
So that's
It
sort of what I
does.
kind of going for there.
Okay. I feel like that totally fits. I just wanted to be clear, just so in case the end of the world really does start to happen, you don't get like a million text messages from people. Just making sure.
You get text messages going, hey, did you have any unfinished business you need my help with?
See,
Because you never
I
know.
mean,
It
yeah,
could be me.
that's right. Um, okay. My number 8 movie is gonna sound super crazy. Um, and it definitely is gonna need a little bit of explanation, similar to my number 10 movie with Venom. Because if I were just to tell you that, hey, this is a movie that I can see romance the way that I like it, and you'd probably look at me as if I was totally crazy. And I would agree. My number 8 is the movie Sweeney Todd. Now, Sweeney Todd is a whew, very visceral movie with a lot of killing and yeah, aspects of revenge and meat pies, sharp knives, throat slitting. Oh boy, none of this so far is looking very romantic. But I am going to split this into two parts because the romance aspect of Sweeney Todd runs in sort of the very pure and the very innocent. And then there is the, I guess, sort of unrequited love that also happens. So we have Sweeney Todd, we have Mrs. Lovett, and I'll put them aside for just a second and let's talk about Anthony and Joanna. So Anthony and Joanna sort of meet in a happenstance way and in just sort of the best ridiculousness. He just happens to hear her sing, sees her, and falls in love with her. Um, it's really ridiculous, and really not very smart either, as almost every single Shakespeare play will tell you. Love at first sight is always a dangerous thing. And I as much as I hate the idea of love at first sight, because that just means that you have fallen in love with whatever the visage of the person is that you saw, and you have no idea what is going on behind their eyes, inside their brain, in their world, whatever. Um it's also, in the most classic way, probably one of the most endearing forms of young love, where it's just so innocent. Now, that's not what I want, but I point it out because it makes such a an excellent juxtaposition for the relationship that Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett have. And this is where I find this amazing connection. Um, no, I don't want any of the Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd things to happen. No, I'm absolutely not interested in, making people pies or anything like that. But the relationship that the two of them have, and especially if you go beyond the movie itself, especially if the longer stories of Sweeney Todd, um there's something about that relationship which is, for Mrs. Lovett, I think it is so unconventional. It's so purposeful and meaningful. And he, I don't think, really necessarily returns a lot of the affection, although he gets a lot from what she does. Um and I I In between all of that, there is this longing. There is this ultimate understanding that sometimes what we get out of a relationship is what we put into it. And it's almost impossible for something not to be terrible if all we're putting into it is terrible. And Sweeney Todd to me is like, it's a cautionary romance tale. What do I find specifically to be the way that I would want to be romanced? I would say that the idea of giving someone everything, being there to give them whatever it is that they need, is it's such a huge thing that sometimes you can be a little bit blind in that. So you can't lose yourself. And this is what I find to be um, kind of awesome about the Sweeney Todd idea. And that is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the external trappings are. It doesn't matter whether you've done a rags to riches story. It doesn't matter whether you've turned your life around and made it something completely different for the person that you care about. If you don't have genuine feelings for each other, it will always end in terrible things. It will. I shouldn't say terrible things, but it will never end well. It will never end in the absolute romance. It'll never end in. That's not even the right way to say it. It'll never end. It'll never have a happy ending. I think maybe that's the best way to say it. And so it's so this one is a little bit more like, here's the way that I think I see romance going awry, while at the same time, there's that undercurrent of the Joanna and Anthony story that is pure and completely sort of devoid of anything deeper, other than just, I'll know love when I see it. And we have no idea what happens to them, really, after the end of Sweeney Todd. But we do know that they have a chance because they didn't put any malice into the relationship. There was no malice ever. It was just pure intentions. And so, I know that this is a big metaphor outside the box thing, but that's how I really think that I think about romance more often than not, and that is, if you start a relationship on a foundation of lies, on a, you know, um, on old ideas, on ideas that sort of are carryovers from other relationships. And if you build your relationships on those things, they have no choice but to crumble. But if you build your relationships on something that is good and starts out with all the best intentions, and just sort of has like a blank slate underneath it, then that's when you have the most chance for success. So Sweeney Todd is my number 8. Also, if I could just say, this is not about me personally, but if I could just say, the character of Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd is absolutely one of my favorite characters that exhibits unrequited love. Well, that experiences unrequited love. She absolutely loves Sweeney Todd in a way that is painful almost to endure. And he isn't, his love is for revenge. His love is for something other than her. But she's willing to turn a blind eye to everything in order to maintain her own illusion of what she thinks love is. And it's so powerful as both a cautionary tale and um as a human nature story, as a folly of human nature. And for that, I love this story. The music does not hurt. I mean, I absolutely love the music in Sweeney Todd, both the on Broadway production, the movie. It's absolutely gorgeous. But the messaging is so powerful and so strong that it's hard to watch Sweeney Todd and not get this feel of love is a powerful thing, because it could both bind you to somebody else or it could completely destroy you. So, Sweeney Todd is my number 8. My blog moviesandmeals.com did Mrs. Lovett's meat pies for Valentine's Day last year, and it was really fun. We had a great time making those. So,
I'm not scared.
well, I wouldn't be either, because we used beef and not humans. So, you know, you're okay. There's no humans used in the making of any of my food on the blog. Just to let you
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Okay.
Even my stuff that celebrates Hannibal.
I just know sometimes beef might carry a premium price tag over there in the islands.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. But that's how you show you love somebody, right? You spend a lot of money on them. I mean, that's a thing. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You spend a lot of money on them for beef, and not killing the homeless and stuffing them in your pies.
I mean, one of the things that I love the most, I think, about the way that Sweeney Todd chooses his victims is that it is a kind of uh it's not just like, well, it it it, it is all about how we forget about the past, and then it still comes back to haunt us no matter how much because we didn't deal with it, right? Because we're just trying to somehow put a band-aid over it, or pretend it didn't happen, or
Hmm.
you know that kind of stuff. And the levels of Sweeney Todd are so deep that sometimes you forget, like, oh yeah, this is just like a silly movie. But this movie is so complicated. I really, really, I thought Tim Burton did a wonderful job uh making this film work as Sweeney Todd, because I've seen it done in plays all over the place, and it's different in a lot of retellings, but it's at its core, he totally gets it. He gets the darker side of it for sure.
Okay, well, another interesting choice from Jen.
Complicated and convoluted, but yes,
I'm
I
not
would say
judging.
so.
Not at all.
Well, that's good. That's good. Because now, as I move into like number 7, number 6, number 5, number 4, I mean, now we're actually moving into, oh no, number 2 is going to be questionable, but we're really moving into the territory of, oh yeah, these are actual, I can see the romance. So there won't
Yeah,
be as much. Yeah.
same here. Same here.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad we got together. That's great. Very good.
I guess that leads me to my number 7.
Number 7.
Number 7. It's I know your favorite actor is in this one. He says sarcastically. It's a film starring Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore called 50 First Dates. Yeah, that's the reaction I wanted. Okay.
Sorry,
50 First Dates.
I was on mute. But you know what? You and I have already had talks about my absolute sort of disdain for Adam Sandler movies.
Mm-hmm.
This movie actually doesn't rank in there. This
Okay, cool.
movie I actually liked, so yes. Move ahead.
So the question is, what in this movie shows the way that I want to be wooed? Um, well, I think it's fairly simple because in this movie, in case you're unaware, Lucy has uh, kind of a rare form of amnesia where every day she wakes up and everything that's happened is gone. She has no memory of it. So when Henry, Adam Sandler, meets her, she has no memory of this. And he he tries to win her over every day. And when we get to the movie, get to the end, he's still doing it, even though they have kids, they're married. He still has to remind her of where she is in life. And he has this tape that he sets down beside her every night, so when she wakes up, he's not there to freak her out. So she wakes up, sees this tape that's meant for her, and kind of gets a crash course in what her life is. But that's not what I'm hoping for. I'm not hoping someone's like, oh, here's a reminder, you're in a relationship, so maybe you should put the toilet seat down, that kind of thing. But it's actually Henry that I kind of admire, and I would love to see some of these things that he's done, which include sort of persevere in the face of um, what have to be impossible odds. Everyone tells him, no, yeah, it's cool that you think you love her, but she'll never be able to feel the same way because she can't remember you when she wakes up. But that doesn't stop him. He continues and continues and continues. I want to see someone that's willing to kind of not necessarily put in the Herculean effort of trying to win me over constantly or anything like that. That's, again, would be a little too close to saying this is the plot that should be part of my life. That's not what I want to go for. I'm just a fraction of that, where someone says this relationship, this thing that we have is worth um it's worth working to keep working. It's worth the time and the effort for the things that we do to make each other happy. I don't want um, someone to just feel like, oh, now it's just too much, I'm out. But that attitude, that mindset that Henry has, to where he says, "This is my person, and whatever it takes, no matter how many times I have to, show up and introduce myself and explain that, hey, we're actually pretty close." I just want somebody that doesn't give up. And Henry, I think, exemplifies this in this movie so well. And Jen, like you said, this is different than a lot of Adam Sandler joints because it's not, just to compare it to something, with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. It's not The Wedding Singer where, it does, The Wedding Singer relied on, I think, a lot more crude Adam Sandler isms to really carry the story because that's just the kind of guy The Wedding Singer was. He's crass. He's hopeless. He's just your Adam Sandler character. Whereas Henry seems more like an actual guy that has this feeling in his heart for this for Lucy. He doesn't have to yell at people. He doesn't have to do anything outrageous. As far as to get jokes across. He's just a guy that's doing what he can, what he has to be with the person he loves. And that's why 51st Dates is my number 7.
So, I actually like 51st Dates because number one, a lot of it takes place in Hawaii, and they definitely kind of nail some of the local culture. So that was kind of cool. But number two, this is one of the first. No, this is one of the only movies that I can think of, especially or despite starring Adam Sandler, where the lead protagonist basically like makes a life for himself, even though every day he has to reinvent that life for someone else. Like it's hard to even fathom, but making personal growth through a lifetime when someone else has no concept of it is such a big thing. And it kind of sweeps you off your feet in a way that is different, I think, from a lot of just, a lot of just sort of that touch on romance movies because the dedication is so incredibly powerful and through. I mean, everything that happens is just a consistent dedication to Lucy. And that I feel like is, yeah, that's pretty amazing. There is a joyous desire to be with a person, just knowing that every single day you're going to have to continually basically reinvent the life that you've already had together. It's very powerful. I completely agree. It's also kind of silly in places, but it's I overall I think it's actually really good.
And
The
kudos to
Hawaii
them for
stuff always
employing
gets
Sean
me.
Astin.
Yeah, I gotta say the Hawaii stuff actually really gets me. I love the Hawaii stuff. Every time I see something like that, and it's like it even gets a little bit of being in Hawaii, I'm like, yeah, yay, represent. Okay, my number 7, in a odd, maybe serendipitous kind of a way, also stars Drew Barrymore. My number 7 is a movie that perhaps many people haven't seen. I don't know. It is a Cinderella story, but it's not the Cinderella story. It is a take on a Cinderella story called Ever After. And this movie really, I don't know, it got to me somehow. I'm not one to necessarily like, love the fairy tale, but I do really love the fairy tale. And in this one, it definitely shapes up uh to be not so much damsel in distress. It's more like it is, although there are elements of the damsel in distress, there is definitely a very fleshed out love story between the main character, which is Danielle, and her love, the prince. Um, it's actually a really good movie altogether, and the Cinderella story is definitely there. But it's not the Cinderella aspect of it that makes me think, oh yeah, this is how I want to be romanced, because it's not the fairy tale that I'm looking for necessarily, although that's kind of cool. It is more this idea that even when things are really bad, you can still find happiness in the small moments of life if you have the right partner. And I mean, you can do it when you don't have the right partner too. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that being alone is bad. I'm just saying that, like, when you have the right partner, um there is absolutely something about waking up every single day and realizing that the small little joys in life mean something, amplified because you are experiencing them together, or because you are anticipating something to be done with that person. It's just a whole other level of kind of experiencing the happiness in life, and I feel like this movie really pegs that. It does such a good job of expressing this idea that wanting to be with another person is about so much more than just um the basic, oh, you just look pretty. I'm not discounting that part of it, because I think that that is genuinely what humans like. But I do also think that we, and especially I, am always looking for that next level, that other connection, the intellectual, hey, we meet on this plane. Oh my gosh, do you love nerdy MCU movies? Ah, so do I, that kind of thing. And that being in an adverse situation doesn't have to crush the joy out of a relationship. Actually, it can amplify the joy of a relationship if you let it. And I feel like that's what this movie does. And so for me, the part about the movie that makes me feel like, oh yeah, this is what I want to experience, is exactly that. It is those very profound moments when, yes, things are not great, but here's my partner, and the world can look like it's in Technicolor again, because I'm feeling like it looks very gray. That this is the part of the Cinderella story that I always wished that they would have said and never did, and this movie does it perfectly. So the movie is called Ever After. It is definitely a Cinderella story, and it is, if you haven't seen it, it's really great. And Drew Barrymore does such a good she does such a good job in this movie. I mean, she just plays the part so perfectly. And let me tell you, her costumes, wow. I wish I could wear those costumes. They are magnificent. I absolutely love them. So, that is my number 7, Ever After.
Okay, well, it seems Mr. Barrymore has like just stolen this slot in both of our lists.
Indeed.
Not quite crossover, but I say it's pretty close. Just
Let's just
judge
say
the
she can
actress.
play. Drew Barrymore can play a romantic lead. She really can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my list, seeing if she shows up anywhere else. No, nope. I just realized that I do have one lead actress that's in a couple of these. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, hold on, I'm gonna do a quick little. Let's see. Yep, yep. And she got nominated for an Oscar both times, so that's a little
Ooh,
tease for you.
right.
But it's not what's next on my list. What's next on my list is my number 6, and that is a little movie
And
called Aladdin.
really,
1992 version, by the way. Let's make this very clear. The 1992 version, the animated film with Robin Williams and that guy from Full House, Steve.
do you feel like the romance was different in Aladdin uh with Will Smith? Was the actual romance different?
I have no idea because I watched it but have no memory of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's one of those things that just kind of went inside my head, uh, knocked around for a little bit, and gone.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Well, I'll listen to what you have to say and then I'll do a quick comparison. We'll see.
Okay. Long story short, I want to marry rich. Boom. Drop mic. What
Okay.
more?
I
More?
mean,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
so are you coming at this from the Jafar angle?
No, no,
Okay,
no,
just checking.
no.
Just checking. Just checking. Just
There,
inquiring minds will want to know.
I also get sort of, I'm going to say annoyed at the love at first sight trope, which we kind of see at play here, even though they kind of get to know each other for a little bit before all of the sort of um, facades are dropped, or at least hers. Jasmine's um, foray into being a peasant, which gets flipped on its head when Aladdin pretends to be a prince. So they both kind of met twice under false pretenses. So that's not what I'm kind of aiming for, but very specifically, it is this this exciting thought that you could have somebody enter your life, and next thing you know, it's filled with, for lack of a better term, adventure. I'm not saying I want a one-to-one let's run from the royal guard kind of adventure, but I think for a relationship, part of the wooing process should be exciting in a way. It should feel like an adventure. And Aladdin and Jasmine, while have a more literal sort of adventure, fighting bad guys and doing parkour and all of that, um, I think it's fair to sort of transpose that to a more metaphorical adventure, as well as slightly literal, going places, seeing the world. In other words, meeting someone whose um, horizons aren't limited to just I want to be alive, and should sort of um, not only expand. Two people come together. Not they don't just expand individual horizons, but they sort of expand each other's as well. They open new worlds up to each other, and I would like to see myself in a position to where being with someone or being um, wooed by somebody, trying to be won over by somebody, would lead to a situation where my mind and worldview are expanded rather than just this is a person that feels the same exact, same about everything as I do, and leaves no room for personal or emotional growth. So that's what I'm looking for in out of this, this Aladdin selection. To Okay, I'm gonna say it. I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it. I want someone to show me a whole new world. I
Okay, that
think that
wasn't too cliche. Yeah.
sums it all up nicely, and that's why it's my number six.
I actually really love the romance between Iago and Jafar. I mean, listen, if you're gonna be stuck with someone for the rest of your life, it might as well be somebody that's as snarky and that you can have like crazy sparring matches with. So, yeah. No, I'm just joking. That is absolutely not. No, no, not going there.
There's nothing
Um,
wrong with our relationship.
although I gotta say, I mean, that is absolutely a gem of that movie. A gem is Iago and Jafar together. They definitely are like mismatched uh I can't even describe it. It's just so awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, I my number 6 is a movie that almost everybody is pretty familiar with, and that if you don't know what this movie is about, I'm sure that you've heard of it. Um, and it just sort of the strength of this movie is in the romance. It and this is one of the few movies where I can see that, like, yeah, no, this is exactly what I consider to be um like the best of everything. It seems unattainable and perhaps a little too idyllic, but I love it nonetheless. It stars Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. It is The Notebook from 2004. And this movie, I don't exactly know how to describe the strong feels that it gives, but it's an insanely well done movie that deals with looking back at your life and sort of realizing that the story of who you are is absolutely about the people that you love. Um, and I know that this kind of means something different for everyone, but this is I won't say that the movie is the reason why, but there is sort of a catch in here of why I feel so strongly about telling people that I care about them, that I love them. And there's the romantic aspect of it, which I'll get to in a second, but there's also this part of expressing the fact that when you love someone, if you don't tell them, then you might as well not even love them, because there is this part of another person understanding and being able to share in your experience with them. And if they never know about it, um that's then they're missing out. And so part of The Notebook is in the very beginning, they're basically in a nursing home, and he's reading to his wonderful partner this story that is in a notebook, and it's really all the story of them. And I'm sure some of it is a little bit embellished, and I'm sure that there's parts that he feels are more important than others. He's a storyteller. But there are these letters, there are these the world gets in the way, World War II happens. There's the class, the inequality in class between the two of them. There's so much in here that sort of speaks to the in the at the end of the day, we are all human. We're all just the same. And all the outside trappings of who we think we are mean nothing when we fall in love. It doesn't mean anything because falling in love is completely arbitrary of the of looks. Well, maybe, I mean, I can't say that for some people because I think some people really do fall on that too much, but it's arbitrary of most of the things that we would consider to be important. When you fall in love, you're not usually falling in love with someone for money. I mean, that's different. You're not falling in love with someone for their position in life. That's different. That's not love. That's something else. That's opportunism. You're not When you fall in love with someone, you genuinely don't care about the things that make up all of the outside trappings. You care about the person. You Something about that person brings you joy and levels of deep satisfaction that you just can't get with anyone else. That's love. And so for me, when I watch this movie, um, I am, first of all, I'm absolutely in love with the way that Duke is so committed I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the way that when he's telling the story of Noah and Allie, how Noah and Allie are there. It seems like the world just wants to keep them apart from each other, and yet no matter what happens, they find a way to be together. There's something so incredibly, I don't know. I guess it's satisfying and rewarding to see that, because it is a little bit idealistic. It is a little bit, you know, yeah, okay, nobody is really being super pragmatic here, and it doesn't matter. The will to want to love someone supersedes and rises above everything. And the nature of this story is so grand and so sweeping that you kind of get swept off your feet in the same way that you feel when you fall in love. It's like there is this beautiful bridge between the feeling of falling in love and then, for me, being in love with the story. It just sort of like is this beautiful circle. So there's nothing like specific about the way that I want to be romanced in this movie, except for the end when we realize that, the story of Allie and Noah is really about them, and how that kind of love it doesn't even age. It's so powerful that even age, even being old, doesn't diminish it. It is undimmed even through everything that they have been through. And it's absolutely stunning and beautiful. And that's what I absolutely idyllically would love to have: someone that will see me the way that he sees her, as just brilliant no matter what. I don't mean brilliant smart wise. I mean just, the brilliance of being human. Um I just love it. I love the story, and I absolutely love the response that he has to her aging, not to turn away, not to run in the other direction, but just to fully embrace it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So, my number 6 is The Notebook.
And that seems like a classic pick.
It's so funny because as I was just saying that, like as I was talking about it, just remembering the movie, it actually makes me want to cry. I, and not like in a sad way, in an absolute like, oh my god, it's so beautiful that it's almost impossible for me. This is one of those movies that I love to watch, even though it makes me cry. It makes me cry, but I love it so much because the emotion is so strong and powerful, and I love that. I feel an actual kinship to the story here. I mean, not that any of this has ever happened to me, but I just feel this like, this is the kind of epic romance that I can imagine being like, yeah, this is gorgeous. This is what I would want. So,
Well, I guess that means we're moving into the top five.
top
And
5.
guess what? My number five does not hit any of those notes. Uh,
Well, it's not The Notebook, so that's probably why it doesn't. Yeah.
in fact, you might say it's ripped from a different place entirely.
Ooh, okay.
My number five is one that you'll never see coming because it is called The Wrestler.
Okay, no, I did not see that coming. Nope.
You didn't see that coming. Good, good. So let me explain why you should see it coming. Because even though this movie doesn't have what you would call any kind of traditional, romance or anything like that, there is sort of an entanglement of sorts between um, two characters, Randy the Ram and Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei's character Cassidy. They kind of, you know they get together, but don't get involved. Sort of a casual thing. But that's not where I'm going now with this. I'm not saying, well, I guess my ideal person is just going to be a casual hookup. No, that's not the case. Not the case at all. Again, we turn towards spoiler territory in the tail end of the movie, and this is what. Excuse me. Hold on, just a second. This is one of those things that, when it comes to relationships, um, it's very telling how someone actually feels about someone else when they do things like this. And in this particular instance, Randy was told very specifically, don't wrestle, because if you wrestle, you could easily die. But because that's pretty much the only thing he knows, he makes that fateful decision to step back into the ring. And it is Cassidy that sort of pleads with him to not. And those are the kinds of actions, the things that I want to see when someone is trying to show they want to be with me. It's more than just a general um, looking out for my wellness, because as we get older, certain things become an issue health wise, and I mean, whether we like it or not, we're just not 20 anymore. But it goes beyond just that.
Speak for
She's
yourself.
okay. As I get older, I realize I'm not 20 anymore. So yada health issues. But it's not just the idea that somebody's there saying your health sucks, don't do that. It's the idea that at the end of everything, when he's feeling his heart giving out in the ring, when he's being asked by his opponent to, hey, we got to wrap this up, you're not looking good, and he just continues to go on, and he's like, no, I got to hit my big move, I got to do this. He looks for her in the crowd, she's gone. It's the combination of finding someone that is taking such a vested interest, not in just what I do, right? Not just the money I make, not just the hobbies I have, not just the kids, but the idea that somebody is invested in my health, someone is invested in my well-being, and somebody's invested in making sure that my life continues for as long as possible, so we can continue to build something. And if I am dumb enough to take it for granted, I want somebody that is also strong enough to walk away. And I know that flies in the face of, my 51st Dates selection of perseverance. But I mean, let's face it, it gets to a point where it's stupid, where you're just adding more to the problem than you are to the solution. And when it comes to caring about somebody, yes, be there for as long as you possibly can. But if they're not willing to follow through and help themselves, yes, sometimes you just have to walk away. You have to have the strength of character to walk away, even if it breaks your heart, even if you don't really want to do it. But if you're sort of enabling their own demise, I would love someone to have that good judgment to say, I can't be a part of you destroying yourself. So not only with this movie? Am I asking for someone to have uh, the compassion and the caring ability to worry about my well being, but to also be wise enough to know when enough is enough? And these are the things that I see um, between Cassidy and Ram. He's stubborn. He wants to feel the limelight that he once had. He wants to feel the love, respect, and adoration from fans and colleagues, and he can't give up the spotlight. But if he would have just listened, I think the story would have ended a lot differently and a lot happier. And I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen.
Of course.
So the wrestler is my number five.
Okay. Well, I mean, I did not see that coming, but I think that that was, but I think that was really well said. Um, and you know, I do feel like as we move up the list that yeah, some of this stuff is kind of all over the place, and there are contradictions. I mean, I even see it in my own list, but that's love. Love is never linear, and it
Hmm.
doesn't follow the same path even, you know, twice with the same person, much less other people. So
Right.
it does kind of make sense. And then in each relationship that you have as you get older, if you're not in the same relationship, um, you know, you want different things, or your relationship evolves and different things become more important. So at the beginning of a relationship, things that may seem like they're important are no longer necessarily important as the relationship matures and you move into, you know, different territory with it. So like I can see these things. I totally can. um okay. My number 5 movie is uh unconventional because I'm not exactly sure how to make it I, I, all I can say is like you know love when you see it because actions oftentimes speak so much louder than words. And that's hard for me to say because I'm a writer and I love words. Wordsmithing is something that I absolutely love to participate in. Um and so this movie sort of flies in the face of that. And it's also a kids movie, which makes it even more difficult to kind of quantify. Um, but I'll just throw it out there. It's Wally. And the reason that I put this in my number 5 position is because I really feel like, listen, if you're going to experience romantic feelings for someone else, it's almost always begins a bit pragmatically. It almost always be I mean, unless you're talking about the star-crossed lovers of William Shakespeare legend where, you know, you just meet someone and you fall in love at first sight and then, you know, everything goes bad from there, which, you know, honestly, yeah, let's I don't want to do that. There's always something in the ask of the beginning in a relationship that kind of sets the stage. And to me, Wally does such a good job of conveying this tireless sense of both devotion, but also want, wonder, this feeling of not really even understanding why you necessarily need to be around, near, with another person, but it's there, it exists. And even as, you know, Wally the robot experiences all of these things, there is something so deeply personal about that experience that he goes through that makes me feel like, you know what, this is that if ever there was the hope for humankind, it's through these kinds of acts, through the acts of kindness, through the acts of general devotion, um and also, to give up a part of yourself for another person, that's big, that's huge. And I waver with this a lot because there's a part of me that is so fiercely independent and doesn't want to be at all weighed down by the idea of, oh, somebody else is that I have to give up any part of myself for someone else. But then there's another part of me that absolutely honors that realizes that that is 100% how you create the deepest connections with a person. And Wally just gets it so magnificently, and without any pretension, without any sort of, there's no. Wally is such a pure movie. I mean, there's just like only the humans have any kind of and even most of the humans don't have it, but some of them do, any kind of nefarious purpose. And everything else about Wally is just so intensely purpose driven. And that, I think, is sort of not even sort of, this is the perfect beginning to romance as it moves in whatever direction it's going to move in. It has to be purpose driven. There has to be an understanding that this is essential, that it's necessary. And a lot of the movies that we have put on our list sort of echo this, because each of the characters in these movies, they need something. They recognize that there is maybe not a part missing, but a longing that they want to somehow fill. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But with Wally, I think because the intention is so pure, the results are so beautiful. So that's my number 5 pick, Wally. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Were you
I
just
mean,
thinking about it?
yeah, actually, one of my favorite things about this is it is the most exquisite example of show don't tell. It's a
Mm.
it's a movie that is not filled with dialogue. In fact, I could say it could pass for a silent film if you wanted it to.
Yeah. And yet the emotions that are conveyed are so strong and so
Mm-hmm.
resplendently beautiful.
Very much
Um
so.
it really yeah, it's to me, Wally is one of those few pieces of art that requires very little to be said, but it really requires an open heart to get all of the messages.
Yes.
Um, and I find that to be absolutely stunning. And also the basis, I think, of any good romance. For me in particular, you have to have an open heart, meaning you have to be open to the process of it. And that's meta, like outside of the movie, but it's no less true. So, yeah, I love that movie.
It's an excellent one,
Good deal.
without a doubt.
Glad you like it.
Um, excuse me, didn't mean to do that on Mike. I guess my number 4, right?
Number 4.
My number 4. Well, it's what can I say? It's a western, and it features A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Wow.
So I'm guessing this one might need a little bit of explanation as well. So let me go
Teeny.
ahead and get that ramped up for you.
Although I will say, at least it's not Kill Bill. So,
Fair, absolutely fair. So Seth MacFarlane plays Albert. and he's a simple sheep farmer, herder, herder. Yeah, yeah, that sounds right. And what I mean by
It,
simple
it,
sheep,
it's called a shepherd.
yeah, that's
The
what I said.
herding of sheep is a shepherd. You're not a sheep herder, you are a shepherd.
Yes, what Jen said.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, carry on.
Remember the time of day. Let's keep that in mind. Well, Albert is a shepherd, a simple shepherd. And that doesn't really play into my joke all that well, though. Because I was going to say, um, as a simple sheep farmer, herder, and now we know shepherd, what I mean is he shepherds simple sheep, or at least one simple sheep. And I wonder if it ever, stayed off the roof. Anyway, it's not your typical Western, that is for sure. Anything that involves Seth MacFarlane and going up, toe to toe against Liam Neeson is definitely not going to be what you'd call uh, traditional in any respect. But this is more about um, what Anna was her name? Yeah, no, yeah, no. Sorry, it's yeah, Anna. Okay. Who had to check my notes. Anyway, Anna is an amazing character. And she is the sort of awesome cowpoke, the awesome shooter, you know, that what more people would ascribe as a cowboy than Albert for sure. She's the tough one. And Albert's just kind of well, he complains a lot. But what I would love to sort of have emulated from that is taking one scene in particular at the shooting gallery, uh, how she sort of lets it go. She shows her true nature in a way that she's not afraid to show the people what she can do. She has talent. She can shoot. She can shoot better than the men. And I would really find it um, woo worthy. There we go. If somebody was with me and they weren't afraid to sort of show off their talents and not be afraid that I would sort of, I don't know, feel emasculated for some reason when I would be the one going, well, holy crap, that was awesome. I would be the guy that's like cheering it on, because anybody that has to hide their light, to make their significant other feel better, it's not going to be a great relationship. Looking at you, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and MJ, stop being Spider-Man. No, he was Spider-Man. That's why you're not on the list. Anyway, but ideally, like I said, the person, not necessarily to show off, but if there was a time or a practical place for them to sort of really display uh, their talent, their abilities, and do it well, and not be afraid to be themselves. That's what I find, and I'm just put this out there, that to me, that's sexy. To have somebody just do what they love to do and not be afraid to show how good they are at it. That is an amazing way to get into my heart. I know it's sort of a long ways around to say, "Hey, just be yourself," but it's it's more than that. It's demonstrating uh, who you are through actions and abilities, rather than this is my personality. No, it's sort of a performance, if you will, one that's
Hmm.
true to yourself, and that is why A Million Ways to Die in the West is my number four.
Okay. I have officially entered the part of my list where these are deeply personal. Deeply personal meaning like there really is no lost in translation here. This is how either I see myself or how I imagine love in its most purest form, or the romance in the purest form to be. And my number two is going to take a lot of explanation, but bear with me on it. Um, these top four movies are really sort of the core of how I think of romance. So I am going to start with, to no one's surprise, because anyone who knows me knows that I am uh, very partial to Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice. Now, there are so many levels of love and Pride and Prejudice. There are the practical and very pragmatic relationships that are just sort of done because maybe you don't love the person, but it's prudent. And that always to me feels unhealthy, but also it's not unimaginable that you can find love just because you are pragmatically uh because you find a kind of pragmatic attraction to another person. Sometimes romance can come later. And I do really appreciate that sentiment because I think sometimes we forget that love is not in sort of our control. We don't plan to love someone. We don't set out and go, "Okay, well, see that girl over there? I'm just going to love her." Because it doesn't happen that way. Um but sometimes through shared experiences and sometimes just being thrown together, as on your list, Josh, with Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Sometimes when you are put into a situation where you have to kind of be together or you just need to be together, it's amazing what can happen. Love really can spring from all kinds of different places. And then there's the Pride and Prejudice part of the, really silly rash love, which is, her younger sister running off to marry someone who, yeah, probably that was a really bad idea. But in the end, there is still joy to be found, even in the most um, frivolous of expressions of love. There is still joy to be found. That also is beautiful. And then, of course, we get to the meat of the Pride and Prejudice story, which is the uh, Mr. Darcy part. And I absolutely love it. There's something about that aspect. I of course I don't like the miscommunications. And unfortunately that's a part of life, right? We don't always communicate as properly as we should. We have standoffish, sometimes distant behaviors, despite the fact that we wish that we could provide overtures to another person, but we're too shy. But we're but we are expecting that a behavior will happen that never happens, and so we hold back and we don't say anything. We don't always, maybe sometimes, know how to respond to another person when they are doing one thing and you can't quite read that. So, you feel all kinds of attraction, but then they do something unexpected and you wonder, what was I seeing? Did I see this wrong? Did I read the signs wrong? What happened here? And in the end, I feel like the message of Pride and Prejudice is, one, love comes in all forms, many forms. And it's not up to us to judge what those forms are. It's up to us to embrace the fact that love is what love is. And then maybe the bigger message of Pride and Prejudice to me is, and this is where the romance part comes in, love is persistent. When, and this sort of works with Josh's 51st dates, where I, feel like, yeah, this is exactly what it is. Love is persistent in the sense that there is a strong message to be had about not giving up, even when it feels like all the signs are you should give up. When you love someone, when you want romance in that, really intimate way, and I don't mean intimate like physical intimate, I mean, like, there is something about love which has mind to mind intimacy. When you want that, you have to be willing to allow for all these little things to happen along the way as you get to, okay, yeah, this is what it's all about. And that's really hard because, and especially today, I feel like it's really hard because we are incredibly geared toward instant satisfaction. And love is not always about instant satisfaction. Sometimes it's about a very delayed gratification where you create a situation and then you come back to it and time passes and it pays off. And I think about the Notebook in this sense too, where, the delayed gratification of having an endless love is you stuck through thick and thin with someone, despite the fact that all the odds were not in your favor, that you didn't maybe see the immediate payoff, but you still feel it. And so Pride and Prejudice just sort of encapsulates so many of the tendrils that I feel are proper romance into one beautiful story, with many characters and many arcs, but they all are sort of dealing at the end of the day this with the expectation of love, with the realization of love, and with the understanding that happiness is about a lot more than just getting what you want. It's about experiencing all the things that go into getting what you want so that when you finally do, you're ready for it. So number four for me is Pride and Prejudice.
Any specific version?
Um, I mean, I am really partial, I have to say, although it kind of cuts me to the core because I hate that I love it so much. But I really feel like the Pride and Prejudice with okay, now you're going to put me on the spot because I don't remember because I can't remember the year, but I think it's 2005, um, with Keira Knightley and
Aha, that's the
Matthew.
one I picked.
Yeah, McFadden. That I do really love that one. Just I think mostly because I feel like, they concentrated on the right things in the story. Pride and Prejudice as a book it's a big book. Well, I should say it's a sweeping book. There's a lot in Pride and Prejudice, and you can't possibly tell the whole story of Pride and Prejudice in a movie. It would be, Lord of the Rings trilogy kind of thing. But it's beautiful because they really, I think, chose to hone in on just the right notes between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. I mean, it really does sort of give you this kind of an epic sweeping view of of romance. It isn't perfect, but it's good. And that, which is not to say that all the other versions of Pride and Prejudice don't also do a good job, because they do. Um, some of the older versions of Pride and Prejudice are actually really amazing, but this one just hits all the right notes for me.
Well, excellent. That sounds like a wonderful example for your list tonight.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to romance Jen, um, number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1 are the way to go. So I'm just throwing it out there as this is the blueprint. So there you go.
That is the point of the show tonight.
Definitely watch Pride and Prejudice. All the other ones, you can kind of get an idea, background flavor, little pieces, little, notes and stuff. Yeah, okay, great. But really, 4, 3, 2, and 1 are these are the keys to my heart.
Okay. Kind of wonder what the next one's going to be.
Hmm.
Again, the point of the list, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Whew. Okay. I guess we're at my number 3.
Number 3.
And it's not Pride and Prejudice. No.
Aww.
It's a documentary.
Oh, is it the March of the Penguins?
No.
I find that incredibly romantic.
Although, yeah, that's definitely, I should have thought of that. No, my number 3 is none other than Trekkies.
Then Trekkies?
Trekkies, the documentary about
Ooh.
the Star Wars, or not Star Wars. God, I'm about to get shot through the internet. Again, been up since 4 a.m. Getting a little tired.
We'll forgive you.
Star Trek fans, although some do prefer to be called Trekkers. The idea, though, is that they're following this ravenous fan base, right? A fan base that has been a part of this fandom for now 60 years. It's very dedicated. Now, am I saying what I'm looking for is someone who looks like Lieutenant Uhura, and I can never pronounce the name. I don't know why I even tried.
It's Uhura.
Uhura.
Yes, Uhura.
Well, now I can say it. You taught me something. That is awesome. And I know it's like right there. You can read it, but it just never comes out of my mouth right.
That's because you're not a Trekkie, and it's okay. It is totally okay.
Yeah,
We
but
accept all kinds in this fandom.
it's not specifically that I'm aiming for this is what I want, but the idea that they show couples, right, that are so in sync with their passion for something. It could be anything, but they love this thing so much together that it is an integral part of their lives, that they have this connection that will last so long based on art. Yeah, I said art. Not just based on a TV show, based on movies, based on Star Trek, based on art. I would love it if someone displayed that passion for the arts, for art, and maybe, yeah, even nerd art and fandoms and things like that, because that's what I like. It would be awesome. But from the point of view of, you know, relationships and the roadmap to the heart, it begins with being true to yourself, not being afraid of people knowing what you like, and then finding someone that matches a few of those, uh, you know, fandoms, for lack of a more dignified explanation, and just being able to share as at the very least a starting point to build something very wonderful off of, because relationships can start in a lot of different ways, a lot of different weird, crazy ways. Maybe yeah, you worked someplace together. Maybe you ran into each other at a bar, whatever the case may be. Although neither one of them are really applicable to me, but the the thought of having a significant other that isn't afraid to come, not just come to me, but to be able to come at me with their whatever flag flying, saying this is who I am. That is incredibly attractive, and I chose a very specific subgroup of nerd culture to demonstrate that with this documentary, and I think it shows it extremely well as they follow the lives of just everyday people that are into this thing, and that is why Trekkies is my number three.
Nice. I think I can see where you're going with that, and I have to say, romance sort of not aside, but romance in this pocket is kind of a cool thing because honestly, um, this is nerd culture is one of the most interesting places I think to find. I'm sorry. Uh, hold on.
Boom, 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 boom,
Sorry.
boom, 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 boom.
Okay, I'm back. I'm having issues here. Um, obviously, my sinuses are not doing so well. Um, uh, okay, so nerd culture is one of the coolest places to see how people fall in love because you're brought together by common interest. But not just are you brought together by common interest, you're brought together through like passion that other people around you are experiencing too. And so finding your partner, finding your romantic lead is so interesting when you think about what that sort of how that plays out when you already have that foundation. It's very cool. It's very cool. It's kind of like if you go to I I used to go to these historical recreation events. Like one was the Horatio Hornblowers Association. Another was I went to this. It was kind of like Renaissance, but it wasn't really Renaissance. It was more um, medieval. It was like it wasn't SCA. It was something different. But it was really interesting because the people there already I felt kinship and bond to just through common cause. So very cool. I like that idea.
Thank you. I thought it was going to be one of those where it was heard, and you know I get these like, wait, what? That doesn't
No,
make any sense at all.
it definitely does make sense. It makes a lot of sense, and I like it a lot. I really do.
Thinking outside the box.
Okay, this movie is not thinking outside the box at all. In fact, I had somebody tell me that whenever they see this movie, they actually think of me. And I don't know whether to be like really impressed, which honestly, yes, I am. or whether I should be a little bit nervous and maybe I need to reevaluate my life priorities slightly. Um, a couple years ago, there was a movie called The Lost City, and it is the movie is okay. So spoilers because I feel like you just kind of need them. Um, the Lost City is a movie that is about a romance writer who is played by Sandra Bullock. And the man who basically is like the face of her romance novels, his name is Dash, of course, because he's dashing. And he's played by Channing Tatum. And then there is the man who kind of like Channing Tatum uh, hires to go and do a rescue, and that's Brad Pitt. And then there is Daniel Radcliffe, who is the supervillain, the person who kidnaps Sandra Bullock's character and brings her off to this island and tries to make her uncover the mystery of this big treasure. Okay, all kinds of allegories in here, about a billion different metaphors for all kinds of different things in love. But honestly, the movie itself, aside from starring my two probably most favorite leading men in Hollywood, Brad Pitt and Channing Tatum, uh, the movie itself deals with this again, this love that just knows no boundaries. And quite honestly, sometimes even when uh, partners that don't even know that they want to be together um, are thrown together, it's more than just circumstance that makes you feel kinship and bond with another person. It's something else that kind of gets uncovered. It's all the things that you don't see about a person because perhaps their personality is a little bit more bombastic than you would even like. I don't like that person. Everything about them is so big and so loud, and no, that's definitely not me. And then you get to know them, and then underneath the surface, there is something else, something that is amazing. And that's what this movie does. It scratches under the surface to all of these different layers. And this is also, ironically or unironically, what happens in the movie's main narrative arc as well, where they have to uncover layers in order to get to the treasure in a similar way. Sandra Bullock's character, Loretta, does the same exact thing. She uncovers all of these layers from herself and sees in Dash something much different than she expected. And the reason that I chose this movie is number one, it does feel very oddly meta to me, right? Um, the romance novelist part is I mean, it's true, but there's more than that. I oftentimes find myself pushing people away that I think are too sort of like loud for me. Too like, and not loud like volume loud like their personality is too loud, or the way that they express themselves is too loud, because I, like Loretta, am very introverted. I don't do a lot of outside social stuff, and it makes me it's not that being in public is, like I can't. It's that I just would rather not. I'm the kind of person that likes to um take a picnic out to the countryside or go to the beach and spend the day sort of like in a bubble with the people that I care about, as opposed to being in the heat of a giant party, or hey, let's go and hang out with 50 of our closest friends, or that's just not me. um and I got such strong compadre vibes with the Loretta character. But more than that, I think there is the sense of needing to really do a personal journey, a personal walk of, okay, well, what is the important part of another person that makes you want to be with them? What makes you feel kinship and bond toward them? And is it something that maybe you just haven't let go of a past relationship in order to see who this person is in a brand new light? Or is it that the person who you are seeing, you just kind of can't let go of your initial response to them? And so then you never see the full glory of who they are. Lots of, personal feelings of, this is how I want to grow. I want to be in the middle of that kind of thing. If you look like Channing Tatum, that's probably not a bad thing, but that's not really the point. And I say that with all earnest and honesty. I really mean that. There is something beautiful about just understanding that people that we meet, we sometimes push away for reasons that are so superficial and so unbelievably childish. And we absolutely miss out, I think, on some really excellent opportunities for someone who will be absolutely the perfect person for us. And one other thing about the Dash character that I really love. Now, I mean, I'm coming at this as a woman because that's the only perspective that I have. But I love the Dash character because no matter what, his love for Loretta is not selfish at all. It's so incredibly um open in its honesty, and she can't embrace it at first, but his character arc does change a bit, but for the most part it's Loretta that really changes, not specifically Dash. And I feel like that is sometimes, sometimes good people are just good people. We just need to accept that they're good people and not be suspect of every single thing that they do. And for that reason, this movie just sort of captures everything that I find honest and open and wonderful about falling in love with someone. So, The Lost City, this came out in 2022. Actually, it's one of the few movies last year that I saw in the theater, and I'm so glad that I did because it was great. So, Lost City.
Okay, I have to be honest here. I wasn't listening to most of that.
Okay, well,
I haven't seen it yet, and I want to.
oh, I didn't give away very many spoilers, just
Okay.
that,
Okay.
yeah.
I
But
was
okay.
trying to not actively listen, not because I'm not interested in the point you're making, but you said, and we're gonna go into spoilers, and I'm like, no, no, no. I want to see this movie. I want to see it.
The number of people is, it isn't just that one person that I was talking about. There are actually several other people. The people that I went to go see this movie with, basically afterwards we went to go get some food, and as we were sitting and talking, they were like, that character is you. And at first I was just like,
Dash,
sort of like, oh, that's funny,
your
ha ha
Dash.
ha. Oh yeah, I'm Dash, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm not Channing Tatum. I and Channing Tatum doesn't write the romance novels. Um, but I felt like silly, And then when somebody totally unconnected to me in terms of my friendship circle, but just knows me, and we have a work relationship and all this kind of stuff. When they told me that, then I was like, oh, you know what? This is a pattern. Clearly, there's something here, and I had to go back and watch it again and really kind of open myself up to, oh yeah, okay, I can see this. I can totally see this. I'm not comparing myself to Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock is so much, just on a totally different level than I am, but I can see why my friends see that in me, and I'm actually very flattered by it. So, not embarrassed at all.
Does she like big ships too?
I'm sure that she does. That didn't specifically come up in the film.
Mm.
But I'll bet if we asked her, would you like to take a trip on a tall ship, she would absolutely say, how fast can I pack my bag?
Okay. So now I'm really gonna have to watch this movie and go, is that Jen?
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that and how you and how you parse it. Because, you know, the, 3, 4, that would be 6 times that I've heard that. That would be too much of a coincidence not to take it to heart.
I was going to say, not to
So,
start suing?
um, no. Look, if you need to grab my life for the basis of some kind of screenplay, um, I'm all here for you. Obviously, you're out of ideas and you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. So, hey, charity is a thing. Have at it.
Duly noted and will be used for future projects. I have it in
Okay.
an audio recording.
Okay, so for you, what's
My number
yours?
2.
What's your number 2? Oh God, wait until we get to my number 2. Okay, can't wait for this.
Okay, my number 2. I was sort of dropping hints, throughout the show. And there's another big hinted thing that I talked about last night that I haven't gotten to yet. But one of the hints that I dropped earlier was that um, one actress was in 2 of my movies, and both of those movies garnered her an Academy Award nomination. This movie actually got her the win. And I'm talking about Marissa Tomei, and my number 2 movie is My Cousin Vinny.
Oh wow. Okay, this definitely requires exposition. Please explain.
Well, when it comes to romance, when it comes to The Way to My Heart, it doesn't get much more personal than partnership. I think ultimately that's the goal. And when it comes to My Cousin Vinny, you got Joe Pesci, you got Marissa Tomei, and she is on board 100% in their relationship. She is there to help out in any way she can because she believes in her guy. Yeah, she also has her own wants and needs. She has her own skill set. She's her own person. But at the same time, she has most graciously, I might add, attached herself to someone that she loves very much, and she is willing to go to freaking Alabama for to help out his family. That is a partner. Research needs to be done. Yeah, she's got it. Expertise needs to be had. Oh, you bet it's there. She is such a wonderful example of uh, just someone that stands with the significant other, not behind, not in front of, but right there by his side, and sometimes even you know proving to be oftentimes proving to be the more competent of the two. Her strengths um, help even out his shortcomings, while her shortcomings, being maybe a bit short tempered, and uh, uh, you've seen the movie, you know how it is. He's sort of, I was going to say, he's a little, no, he's not level headed at all. But the combination of the two is explosive in a passionate way, not in a toxic way. And ideally, on a relationship, for me, would have bits and pieces of those elements where strengths and weaknesses that are offset, but more importantly, a partner that is down for the ride and ready and willing to step up to the plate for each other as the need arises. Those two are going to be together forever. I wish they made a sequel. I know it's sort of sacrilege in film communities to talk about. We don't need unnecessary sequels. Well, I want to see where these people are. I want to see this guy as a judge, because that's obviously where he's heading. That's what I want to see. I want to see their future, and when I see their future, they're together, and she's still uh, just as supportive of him as he is of her, and all in all, that's kind of what I'm into, a partner, and that's why my cousin Vinny, although had some very interesting question. What's a Ute? What's a
Yeah.
grit? You
What's a
know,
you?
great questions, but it also has a primo example of this partnership that I would love to see it happen and in real life. That's my number two. My cousin Vinny.
Nice. I feel like that's actually a pretty good. I mean, it's it definitely is not my choice. I would not make that choice, but I do sort of see uh what the through line is there, and it's kind of cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, we are at my dreaded number two, and man, let me tell you, the explanations here are it's. I don't see. I'm stumbling already. This is going to be
I've
tough.
been doing it all night. You're okay.
Um, hmm. Okay. Let me gather my thoughts here. First, let me just tell you what the movie is, and we'll just let that sit for just a quick second. The movie is Legend. Okay, and it's the movie that came out in 1986. It is stars Tom Cruise, um, and Tim Curry as Darkness. Um, it's unicorns and sort of the end of the world and lots of glitter. Um, First of all, I have to mention that I would be remiss, I guess, if I didn't mention that I saw this movie at a time when I feel like I was sort of beginning to understand my own um like I was really sort of coming into my own about what romance was, and what it meant, not just what it was mechanically. Like, it's easy to explain to someone, well, you love someone, or yes, you feel attracted to them. No, I mean, like, on a deep level, like all the subtext of what being attracted and being in love with another person really means. And everything that is in Legend is a juxtaposition of itself. So there's this beautiful sort of yin yang aspect to Legend. There is light, there is darkness, there is innocence, there is corruption, there is beauty, there is blackness, there is sort of the skillful resource, and then the ineptitude of just bumbling through. And all of these things remind me on many scores, first of all, what it just means to kind of get through your own existence, but on a very scaled down and pinpoint piece. The romance here is, and specifically I'm talking about Liliana and Jack, it is absolutely about being there for each other when everything goes wrong. And I don't just mean the little things, I mean it's the end of the world and you're still trying to work it out. And that is not supposed to be some kind of silly oh, that's funny, how big of a metaphor can you possibly get into. No, I don't mean it that way at all. I mean, there is something incredibly wonderful about experiencing both what it is to feel as if you're in love and then go to the ends of the earth to protect that love. And the other reason that I absolutely choose Legend as this is how I feel about romance is Lily does just as much as Jack does to protect the innocence of the world, to protect the integrity of the world. And honestly, the way that it happens is through their love for each other. And I find that to be just the perfect example, the perfect shining moment when you realize that your love for another person, through your love for another person, you can change the world. And maybe that sounds too grand, and maybe that sounds like, oh, okay, you're living in fairy tale land again. And maybe that's true. And, I definitely am the first person to admit that these stories have such a huge impact on how I think about romance. But on a very pragmatic level, um, feeling like you can change the world, however small it may be, is such a powerful, strong feeling. And when you feel it with another person, it is magnified by the power of the sun, much like in the movie. And it really can defeat a lot. This film does so much for me on so many different levels, both metacontextual and just sort of basic metaphorical, that it's hard for me to find a better example, except perhaps my number one, of what true love really, really is and how it comes together to be everything. Um, so yeah, so number two, Legend. I don't particularly, you know, there's a lot of parts in this movie that, if you tried to dive too far into them and read between too many lines, you might come up with weird ideas about what I'm thinking about in terms of romance. I would just like to say, no, that's not true. I really don't want to actually be kidnapped and put into a dungeon and forced to kill a unicorn or, you know, although I will say that if Tim Curry wants to invite me to dinner at some gigantic table, I am all for that. And absolutely, I'm there for you, Tim. So, number two, Legend.
So pay attention. No
Yes.
killing unicorns on the first date.
No, no, please. No. And also, please don't kidnap me or throw me into a dungeon on the first date either. I mean, I could see that as being like, cosplay for later down the road, but let's not do
Hmm.
that on the first date. That's a little too, yeah, a little too much even for me.
Fair enough.
So we're at number one.
We're
Are
at
you
number
excited?
one. Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Because I pulled a Jen.
Okay.
Some of you
Can't wait
might
to
not
hear
be
about
familiar with
this.
that means, but that means I couldn't just decide on the one movie.
Oh
No.
no. Oh no.
These two share the number one spot,
Oh boy.
but that's because one is a sequel of the other. And between the two, I couldn't figure out which one sort of represented what I wanted most
Hmm.
because they're both amazing in completely different ways. And the fact that these two amazing these two amazing women were into just the same guy is mind-boggling to me. And if you know me, you know where this is going. Because my number ones are Clerks and Clerks 2.
Oh boy. So also just Just as a list aside from this list, I feel like we need to make a list where Clerks or Clerks 2 or the combination of Clerks and Clerks 2 have made Josh's list, because that would be a
Yeah.
long list indeed.
Hmm. The top 10 lists where Josh lists Clerks or some variation. Could be fun.
This is funny.
Anyway, in Clerks, you got this guy. His name's Dante, and he's not even supposed to be here today. That's the premise. They work in a convenience store. That's the whole deal. He has a girlfriend. Her name's Veronica. She's awesome. She believes in Dante. She wants him to realize his potential and be more than a clerk. Now, it's not until the next movie where we find out, well, he kind of only wants to be a clerk. But in this movie, he still has dreams, he has aspirations, and he wants to get out of the quick stop. So she supports him. She says, go back to school, get your learning on, be more. And she pushes him, and she pushes him. And not in a naggy negative way either. She's very supportive. I'm popping my peas left and right. Anyway, so she's very supportive. Veronica is amazing. As Silent Bob says, you know, not every girlfriend will bring you lasagna at work, and she does. Homemade lasagna, brings it to him at work because she loves him. That's what she does. She shows her love. She shows her support, and she shows that she believes in him. And what does Dante do? Well, he tries to hook up with his ex. Now, that's the thing. I'm not talking about the one-sided nature of their relationship where she's giving it her all and he's just still trying to figure out why Caitlin Bree is still on his mind. No, just it's her. Veronica brings everything to the table when it comes to having a great partner. And she's also not. I don't want to add this as like make it sound like just a side note, but she's doing things for herself as well to improve her life to become a better adult human. And she wants them to move forward together in life so they can have something together moving forward. And that's brilliant. That's great. Which is when we move on to Clerks 2, where Dante, again, he's engaged, and from what it looks like, it's not a great relationship. And one night he, has a few too many drinks, sleeps with his boss, she gets pregnant. But she realizes how she feels about him. He realizes how he feels about her, and the scene in particular that stands out to me, and God, I wish somebody would do this for me. Anytime just a musical number can break out, it's magic in my heart. But seeing Becky uh, on the roof with Dante, and she's like, "I'll teach you how to dance." So she's dancing, unencumbered. Becky is just there. She's there. She's in the moment, and the way that he looks at her, like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. The adoration in his eyes at that moment is a beautiful thing. And yet, yeah, the musical number, I personally love it, absolutely love it. But it's that moment where we see Becky through through Dante's eyes, where it's like, yeah, this is sort of an intense feeling of connection. And all of this happens to one guy. These two, Veronica, Becky. Dante deserves neither of them. None of them. But they are so amazing for putting up with him. I think what it all boils down to is, no, I'm not the person that's like dwelling on, you know, relationships or anything like that. But I also realize I've got flaws. And maybe I'd like to see someone able to look past, or maybe not look past, but definitely not dwell on the things that make me less than perfect. And sort of, I don't want someone to idealize me. I want someone to see me for who I am, as they sort of see Dante for who he is, what he is. Less so Veronica, because she saw his potential uh, version. But I would love that. I would love to get past the whole. You know, I was asked before. I think it was Mars Venus. You know Mars Venus Kinte's show. I was on there
I
once,
do. Yes, I do.
and actually, I was on there a few times. But one of the topics that was brought up was, you know, that mask you sort of put on when you first start dating somebody, where you're accentuating your positives and kind of downplaying, other traits. And I commented something along the lines of, I don't know how to do that. I'm like this yeah, I'm like an onion. I'm stinky. No, I have layers. There's a lot to me, like there's a lot to anybody, but I don't really put up any kind of facade to win people over. And I think out of everything going on with Clerks and Clerks 2, to kind of tie it all together, they sort of recognize that Dante's just this big. He's a goof. He's an oaf. He's you know not really quite grown up, but he's getting older. And Veronica wants him to mature, and Becky just wants him to be happy. And Veronica wants him to be happy too, but she prefers he becomes his next level self, that growing out of his teen angst era, the complaining about the crappy job part of his life, and she wants to help him move along to that happy adulthood. But they both want him to be just a happier version of himself, and it's Becky that kind of finally moves him forward, because she's the one that doesn't make him leave the thing that makes him happiest, which ironically always makes him the most miserable as well. But that's neither here nor there. But these two, Veronica, Becky, are the reason why Clerks and Clerks 2 share my number one spot.
Okay. I have to say that I definitely um feel from you your passion for the Clerks movies. And it is difficult for me, I think, sometimes to like understand what it is that you're seeing in them so much because like I don't see it, but it's sort of beautiful because I love that first of all, I love the dedication to the movies, but also that you can find such meaning and inspiration in such seemingly very understated films is kind of a big deal. And I don't say that with any kind of facetiousness. I say that honestly. It is
You're making fun of
really,
me.
and no, I'm really not. It is actually, I feel that way. I felt exactly the same way when I just talked about Legend. Um, you know, it is not necessarily like a romance movie. I mean, it is, but you know, it's juvenile in sort of a way. It's fairy tale land, and the it's the idea that you can rise above some of these um ideas to or the inside of the films, that you can see past the plain narrative to really break into what the content means for you, that that makes all of this worthwhile. Because every time we talk about movies, we always add sort of the addition of, here's what it meant to me, this is what I thought about it, and here's some things that maybe you didn't think of in terms of, close association, or, this is why it made my list. That I think is sort of what building these lists is kind of all about. So I definitely, I acknowledge that this is a huge part of who you are, and I absolutely am here for it. Okay, I am going to be very brief about my number one, because I don't think anybody who has seen this movie, or even who hasn't seen this movie, doesn't know about it. And I don't know what more I could add to it other than just to extrapolate how I feel about this movie and what it means for romance to me. It is The Princess Bride. Now, um, again, so many different layers in The Princess Bride. I mean, true love is true love, and it conquers all, including death, which oddly was another of my movie shout outs with Ghost. But it's not just that. It's, again, it sort of summarizes almost every single thing on my list. Tenacity, the ability to think outside the box in order to find your true love. The fact that, sometimes what we expect in life isn't actually what we get. The many ways that love expresses itself, the many ways that we get caught up in all the external trappings, the restlessness of the heart to want something that it can't have at the moment, having to be patient, having to sort of understand another person's perspective and be willing to be in the moment with that. All of these things are all 1,000% a part of The Princess Bride. And the love story that is The Princess Bride is, to me, the perfect love story. It sort of shows every single thing on one level or other that I would want in a partner. And I don't mean that you have to be Wesley and sail off on a pirate ship, although that would help. Um, it's more something, it's a lot more pragmatic than that. It is being willing to do whatever it takes to manage both the expectations of your partner and yourself in order to come to, yes, okay, our happily ever after can exist. And sometimes just being in the moment is really important. That is, that you don't give up hope, you don't give up faith, you continue to pursue what you want to pursue, even if sometimes it seems hopeless. And that doesn't mean stalking another person or chasing them down to the ends of the earth. It just means when you love someone, if you know that that love is returned, it's worth a lot. And I think that sort of sums up everything else that was on my list as well, but does it in such a brilliant form. This movie is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I always feel this renewed sense of hope for my own inner romantic. Even at times when I feel, as romantic as a shrubbery. Shout out to Monty Python. Um, because sometimes it just doesn't exist for us all at the same time. Um, but this movie definitely brings it all back into proper perspective and makes me feel like there's still hope for love. Um, yeah, so that I think that that perfectly encapsulates it all. So that's my number one, The Princess Bride. So let's take a quick tour through your list from 10 to 1, Josh, and see where we are at.
Hey, just
Actually, I
have to
should
give
say
it a shot.
11 to 1 cuz you're 11. So, yeah.
I want to give a little tangential story real quick. It's well, my day job,
Mhm.
work with kids, students, in particular. And one day, a new student arrived, and they asked me, um, "What's your name?" And I swear, the first thing I came up with was, "Oh, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." The kid looked totally confused, but there were a few giggles in the background, and I'm like, "Success."
That's funny. That is funny.
It's like, nope, no, I'm actually Josh. So yeah, welcome. That was my story.
For a
10
second
number.
I thought you Oh, go ahead.
No, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. Go ahead. Yeah, go, yeah.
For a second I thought you were going to say I'm the Dread Pirate Roberts. No, we won't even say that, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm really glad that you went with the other one and not with that
Yeah,
one because the other one would have been way more terrifying. So good
yeah.
for you.
Although they weren't prepared to die. Uh, mm,
Okay, 10 to 1, 11 to
10 to
1,
1.
whatever. We won't get semantic.
Number 10, Megan. I say that joyously, even though, yeah. Number 9, Guys and Dolls. Number 8, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Number 7, 50 First Dates. Number 6, Aladdin. Number 5, The Wrestler. Number 4, A Million Ways to Die in the West. Number 3, Trekkies. Number 2, My Cousin Vinny. And The Greatest Romance with Ralph Macchio since The Karate Kid. And tied for my number 1 spot, Clerks and Clerks 2. Jen, what is your 10 to 1 list?
Okay, 10 to 1. Number 10, Venom. I just still love that. Okay, Venom. Number 9, Ghost. Number 8, Sweeney Todd. Number 7, Ever After. Number 6, The Notebook. Number 5, Wally. Number 4, Pride and Prejudice of the 2005 fame. Number 3, The Lost City. Number 2, Legend. And number 1, The Princess Bride. So,
Beautiful
what
list.
is our homework for next week, Josh?
Well, clearly, the homework next week is going to be our top 10 movies featuring stores that sell cigarettes.
Oh, well, okay then.
Okay, no,
That
that's not
sounds.
it. That just that's just me going,
I'll go
how
with
can I
Breakfast at
talk about
Tiffany's
Clerks
for one.
again?
Hey, I was going to come up with a list. I was going to do
No, no, no.
Breakfast at
I'm
Tiffany's.
going to do
Yeah.
something different. I'm going to do something very different.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to put this out there, um, and I'm going to try to make it real quick. It's Black History Month, right?
Yes, indeed.
And the instant idea that you have is you go with actors, you go with directors, uh, but for some reason, I feel like I don't know. It seems sort of off-putting to just go, "Hey, these are our 10 favorites." It doesn't really sit well with me for to be so blunt with it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because we have this tendency to uh, caress a topic and make it more niche, right? That's sort of what we do. We don't really, throw things like right out there. It's not like or these are the top 10 action films, these are the top 10 comedy films. No, that's definitely not our wheelhouse, or or at least what our tendencies have been. Having to deal with this real quick. So I'm not sure what the best way to celebrate Black History Month would be, and I want to. So maybe you could help me think of uh, a way to put our own 10-1 kind of spin on this. So it's not just just a direct. These are the directors. These are the
Well,
actors. These.
what if we did something like this? What if we did our top 10 movies that we think celebrate Black history the best? That is, either call attention to what Black history sort of encompasses and is about, or highlights a certain aspect of Black history, whether it be the 70s era with all kinds of different genre pieces put into it, or
Mhm.
whatever it encompasses for us. What do we feel best represents Black history to us? Now, I would caveat this by, at the very beginning of our podcast, we definitely need to be very clear that, we're two white people, and our understanding of what Black history is very much sort of couched by the privilege that we have as white people. We are not experiencing Black history the same way that other people are experiencing Black history. But I
Right.
do think it is important that we acknowledge the fact that we too can see that there is an important part of this that needs to also be celebrated. So, I mean, I'm here for it. Whatever you decide to do, I'm totally here for it. But I do think that maybe we should open it up a bit and make it less niche and more, hey, let's have a real celebration list of what we think are the best examples of film for Black History Month.
How about this? A list that celebrates the contributions um, of the artists to celebrate Black History Month.
Okay,
Does that make sense? Am
I
I,
think so.
so
Yeah.
it's rather than our top 10 directors, our top 10 actors, just our list that celebrates um, Black History Month and the artists that have come up and
I
inspired
like
and
this.
done that.
I like this. I can see this going in a lot of different directions, and I think this could make a really interesting and compelling list. So, yeah, let's have at it.
I'll think about a great way to phrase it for you know a title. That way it
Awesome.
can be all ready to go. Okay, so yeah, we have our topic.
All right. Sounds good. So, just a quick shout out to the other podcasts that, especially that I'm a part of. Join me tomorrow if you like for our Last of Us podcast, where we talk about The Last of Us. Right now, we are on episode 4. We are going to be discussing Ellie and Joel as they take a camping trip, which I'm sure will end super well. The Last of Us is a show that's on HBO Max. We are exploring every nook and cranny of it and having a great time. You can also join me for TV dinners on Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern Central. This coming week, we are actually, ironically or unironically, going to also be talking about Black history and how entertainment is treating Black History Month, and where maybe there are some missteps and where there are some really awesome ideas going on. So we're going to be talking about that. And also join me over at my blog, moviesandmeals.com, where I'm sure you will find some interesting, if not compelling, recipes to make for your next movie night. How can we find you, Josh?
Well, as always, if you're interested in anything Wadco Media does, you go to wadcomedia.com for all the pertinent links and information to all the social media pages where you should like and leave some comments under the videos. Let us know what you think. Hey, if you have a list idea, reach out to us. We'd love to tackle your list. And if you have any lists based on topics we've come up with, by all means, let us know what those are. We could definitely take a couple minutes to go through those and sort of revisit um, older episode ideas and, you know, have your voice heard in the conversation as well. If you are interested in donating to the cause, there's Patreon, but I don't really update it or anything. The link can be found at wycomedia.com, but a link that you can find there also is for merchandise. So if you feel like you want to, get something for your money, something more tangible, go to the merchandise where you can get a great whimsicality shirt.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly whimsical, and that way, yeah, you contribute a little bit to, you know, keeping the lights on, I guess that's what they say. But to be perfectly frank, the lights are going to be on no matter what. It would just make them easier to be on. So I'm just going to throw it out there. It's just, but I feel better if you feel like contributing, you go that direction. Not because I get any more money out of it or anything like that, because quite frankly, we don't. But having something tangible that you can hold in your hands, I think, is much better than an idea, personally. So there's that. And also, Friday nights, the Wadcast, episode number 120, is going to be coming at you. And one of the things that we plan on talking about, uh, I'm gonna bring up the ads, the movie trailers from the Super Bowl, and find out, you know, was it worth the millions of dollars of airtime that it took to put them out there? We'll see as we look over some of the Super Bowl ads. I actually know what we're one of the things we're talking about. That's crazy. It never happens. But yeah, that's everything about me. All of it. Everything.
Awesome. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed our list tonight. Please send us love letters if you'd like them. I promise we will respond with the appropriate movie titles in response. It's going to be fun. Okay. I will see you all next week on TV dinners, and Josh will see you on Friday for the Wadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great night, and Josh, give me my line.
Say goodnight, Jen.
Good night, Jen.